Alright, today we're going to be installing a set of these Bilstein 5100 series coilover shocks on the front of my 2014 Sierra. Now, a couple of weeks ago I installed a matching set of 5100 series shocks on the rear, and now we're hitting the front. I do want to say that I've got a poll over on the community tab on my channel asking how you pronounce Bilstein. Some people call it Bilstein, I call it Bilstein. After you watch this video, head on over and take that poll real quick. I also want to say a quick thank you to everyone who takes the time to hit that subscribe button, people who give me those thumbs up, and people who take the time to leave questions and comments below. It's what really keeps me going. So if you're not a subscriber and you want to see more of this type of stuff, hit that subscribe button. Alright? Hey, thanks for watching. Let's get started. Alright, so we're just about to get started here. We've got three 18mm nuts here on the top, and we'll get a closer look at those when we get started. And we've got two 15mm bolts down underneath, and I'm trying to get you a shot of those, and they're right there. And I'll try to get you a better shot of those. And I do have an assistant here today, and it's Barry, my brother-in-law from Barry's ATV World, and he's going to give me a hand. It's definitely helpful to have a second set of hands when we're going to compress this spring, all right? Let's go ahead and start with the bottom bolts, and we'll get those loosened up, but I won't remove them, and then we'll move on to the top ones. Alright, you can see I have a bottle jack here supporting the lower control arm. That's going to come into play a little bit more when we loosen up the sway bar links to give ourselves a little bit more play. So I've got a pipe on my ratchet here just to help get it broken loose, and it's free right now. Alright, so we're going to use an 18mm deep well socket. I've got a couple of long extensions and obviously a 1/2" ratchet here. And we'll just get them broken loose here without hitting the camera, hopefully. I should mention that I've got a link to Barry's YouTube channel down below, and I think my subscribers and others would enjoy that channel. He does a bunch of DIY stuff, auto repair, ATV repair, kind of like me. Woodworking, which I don't do a lot of, so if you have a minute, check out his channel. Click down below in the description and in the comment section. Appreciate him being out here with me today. Alright, at this point, I'm going to remove this last nut, and then we'll remove those two lower bolts all the way. And then we're going to loosen up the sway bar link, which will allow us to drop the control arm, and we'll get this thing out of there. Alright, at this point I can remove these lower bolts, and honestly I probably could have removed them initially, but I like to leave them in there just so that the shock doesn't go anywhere. But there's enough tension from the spring to keep that thing in place. Okay. And they are extraordinarily long bolts, and I'm not sure why. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen up our sway bar link, which is right there. And it's 15mm top and bottom. And you can see also that I've sprayed everything down with PB Blaster just to make our job a little easier. Once we loosen up that sway bar link, we'll be able to lower our bottle jack. And this whole control arm should drop down a little bit. It'll help us get this whole shock assembly out of here. Alright, let me reposition the camera. Alright, so we're not going to remove this all the way. We're just going to loosen it to where we can basically see one or two threads at the top of the nut. And I'm just using a 15mm combination wrench, and it's kind of resting up against the steering knuckle. I'm going to say that was much easier than pulling it out through the bottom. So, alright, so we're going to use these Shankly spring compressors. Okay, so the reason I purchased this particular set is because they received good reviews on Amazon. I've got the product linked down below in the description as well as in the comment section. But the other reason why I purchased them is because many of these sets don't recommend using an impact wrench, and this one actually states clearly in the instructions that an impact wrench can be used. Okay, so that's going to save us some time. So let us get these installed, and then we'll go ahead and compress the spring and get it swapped over. Alright, just to show you how this works real quick, we've got a clamp here on the lower part of the spring. I've got it upside down. It's got a collar that locks onto that. And then we've got a clamp on the top part of the spring. And Barry's going to hit this with an impact wrench, 19mm socket, and we're going to kind of toggle back and forth on each side. And I did lube the screws up with some lithium grease. Alright, go ahead, Barry. And you can see already that the spring has a lot of gap here that wasn't there. So we're probably good here, but he's going to crank a little more. Alright, so you can see we have the spring compressed here. This Shankly set is safe. I feel comfortable working around it, unlike some of the other sets I've used in the past. The next thing we need to do, I'm going to hit this with some PB Blaster. This is a 15mm nut, but the problem is if we try to hit it with the impact wrench or a ratchet, the center shaft is going to spin, so we'll likely have to grab a hold of that with some vice grips and wind it off by hand. But what I'm going to do is hit it with some PB Blaster, and then we're going to wire brush it. Alright, now we need to get all of the mounting hardware switched over to our new Bilstein shock assembly. And you'll want to keep everything in order so you know the way to reinstall it. Alright, so you may be asking yourself, how do I know if my shock was bad? So this shock absorber itself was pretty much doing nothing, and the spring was doing all of the work, alright? Alright, so at this point, if you're going to change the height of your front end, you would move this ring. This position here is the OEM original ride height. That's where I'm going to leave mine. We need to assemble all of the existing coil hardware onto this new Bilstein shock. The only thing I would recommend at least purchasing would be this insulator here. And I called our local GM dealer because it is a GM part. And they charge you 21 bucks for this plastic piece. But because of the GM strike, he basically flat out said, I can't tell you when I can get it to you. Now you can get them on Amazon and eBay, and I'll probably link to this part down below. But this thing's had a crack in it originally, so we didn't crack it getting it off. But for the inexpense of it, I would go ahead and purchase one in advance, all right? If I were doing it again, but we're using this one, all right? Let's go ahead and get this thing put together. All right, so we'll get everything assembled here. Now, Bilstein did include one of these pieces, but we're going to use the original because it does seem a little bit more heavy duty. Next goes the spring. Make sure you get the spring back in its original location, the coil itself. Okay, with this little ring here, it's got a bevel on the inside. Make sure that's going against the ring here. There's a little retainer ring. Now with this, we're going to bring this rubber piece up into it, if we can. Alright, this again needs to match up with the end of your coil, so make sure you get that in there. And then when you're installing this cap here, make sure that these mount in the same location as these spaces for them. Okay. At this point we can tighten the nut all the way down. And you're basically going to bottom the threads out on that nut, alright? Alright, so we have everything installed and aligned correctly. You want to pay close attention to this top coil mount. Right now it's on the bottom because we have the whole assembly upside down, but it goes a particular way. So when you remove it, you want to pay close attention to the direction that everything comes apart so you can reinstall it in the same orientation, alright? At this point, we can go ahead and remove our Shankly spring compressors and we'll get this thing installed. And again, I'm just going to do a little on each side. Alright, so we're going to put this back in with the same orientation that we removed the original one. So you might notice that the coil ends right here in the front, and that's how it was when we pulled it out. So again, we're going to go in through the upper control arm here. Drop it in gently. Watch your ABS sensor. And what I'm going to try to do is just get one or two nuts installed on the top here. Alright, so you can see I've got the bottle jack under the lower part of the shock right there. And remember, we loosened our sway bar link, so we've lowered the control arm a little bit. And I'm just going to raise this shock up into position, and then we're going to try to line those holes up. So once it gets up above the mounting position, I'm going to kind of tap it in towards me, which is toward the outer side of the vehicle. Alright? Alright, so if you have to finagle that into position, you could use the butt end of a wooden handled hammer, or you could use a wooden dowel or something and just kind of gently tap it into position. You can see Barry's winding the bolts in now. Alright, and then we'll get everything torqued down and we'll be good to go. Alright, so on these sway bar links, it's only 17 foot-pounds, but I can tell that the bushings are really collapsing here. I do have new sway bar links on the way. Alright, so I did hit 17 on the sway bar links, but we're going to replace them because I can see that the bushings are just cracking and mushrooming out. Time for some new ones. Alright, so 37 foot-pounds on these lower bolts here, and it's 37 on the upper bolts as well. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did find it helpful, give me that thumbs up, alright? Let's torque down the upper bolts and we're done with this truck. Alright, so these 18mm nuts get torqued down to 37 foot-pounds. That one's there. That one's there. And let's see where this one is. Alright, hey, thanks for watching. Give me that thumbs up if you found this video helpful. We need to replace these little wire loom caps here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more of this type of stuff. And don't forget to check out Barry's channel. I've got that link down below. And a big thank you to Barry for coming out and helping me out with this today. We're thinking about maybe doing more videos together, so look forward to that. Alright, hey, thanks for watching. Have fun. Leave questions and comments below. I gotta get to the point where I'm not gonna get by you, though. Yeah. Okay, we're cutting this part out. We're cutting that part out. Well, I'm at the point where I can't come out anymore. So.
Well, I know.
We will have a bloopers on this one.
Especially because you're doing it that quick. It's like you don't even start it.